Welcome to Soil and Soul, a Catholic Passage podcast. Before beginning today's episode, we give God the first fruits of time and attention by listening to His Word and reflecting upon it with one of our spiritual fathers. May you be blessed with the Lord in your minds, on your lips, and in your hearts to bear the fruit that eternally endures.
Hello, I'm Father Feller, and today I will be reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verses 13 through 16. And this Gospel passage is read at the Friday Mass for the 26th week in Ordinary Time, which this year is October 3rd. Jesus said to them, "Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the mighty deeds done in your midst had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would long ago have repented, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. But it'll be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon at the judgment than for you. And as for you, Capernaum, will you be exalted to heaven? You will go down to the netherworld. Whoever listens to you listens to me. Whoever rejects you rejects me. And whoever rejects me rejects the one who sent me." Well, this is the gospel of the Lord today, and gospel means good news. So what's so good? It sounds so condemning in a way. Or maybe holding accountable might be another word. Or maybe Jesus is trying to inspire the people of these towns that he's going to visit. He's comparing their response to him and to his preaching to these towns of Tyre and Sidon, where Tyre and Sidon were towns that were enemies to God's people. Jesus is saying to his brothers and sisters in the Jewish faith, his followers, that the people of Tyre and Sidon, as bad as they were, would convert if they listened to me today. It'd be more tolerable for them at the judgment. The judgment would be far less on them than on Jesus's current day listeners who are refusing to convert, to repent, to believe in the gospel, to follow him. And then he has some special words for the 72 people that he had sent out, his initial missionaries of the gospel. He says to them, "Whoever listens to you listens to me, and whoever rejects you rejects me." And so here Jesus is identifying himself with his followers, which we call his body. He's the head, they're the body. We call that the gathering of God, the church. Whoever listens to the church listens to me. Whoever rejects the church rejects me, the body of Christ. And not only this, but whoever rejects me rejects the one who sent me, which is my Father. And that goes back to the garden, does it not? Where Adam and Eve rejected God's authority. They chose not to trust in him and to reach out to the fruit, and that original sin happened. And here Jesus is trying to undo that by bringing the message back to humanity through his body, the church, those he sends out, so that the good news can be accepted. And so that is the good news today, is that he is working through his followers to convert the world. He is not simply keeping his message in the few square miles or area that he was preaching, but he wants to extend it to all the world, to convert everybody. And he's given us 2,000 years of the gospel to put this work into motion, that he, through us, may bear an eternal harvest. And so for us Christians, us Catholics, are we willing to go further in our discipleship of letting him convert the unconverted areas, to heal the wounded areas, to break the hard areas, and replace those stony hearts with hearts of flesh that beat, not in vengeance, not in resentfulness, not in fear, but in trust, in love, in mercy. They beat with the heart of Jesus.
Take a moment to recall that one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. Pause to reflect upon God's word to you today. Did you notice anything captivate your attention or stir in your heart? While reflecting, share your thoughts with God. When you are ready, resume this podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of Soil and Soul. God bless you, and thank you for
Welcome
joining
to
us.
Soil and Soul, a new Christian podcast for those who want to invest in yields that count most. 5 days a week during planting and harvest seasons, Soil and Soul looks to help you sow seeds and reap a golden harvest. episode of Family Friday. Aaron Lorch here and Kayla Venner. How are you doing today,
Kayla? Good. It's another unusually warm day for October, so
I was going to say it's not fall. It's just continuance of summer weather, which is super nice, but why am I not at the lake? Oh, yeah, because it's harvest.
Because it's harvest. And yes, the benefit, Scott and I were just talking the other day that he's like, I actually don't mind harvesting in this. It's so much nicer to harvest in this. Like, so if like something breaks down, you're not fighting like it's cold or dark so early, before that all sets in. But also like there's really no humidity this time of year when we are getting these such hot days that he's like, dang, I'll take this over an 85-degree day in August or something. So
that's
but
right.
it is weird. Like I'm driving around and like people have like pumpkins out and they've got, all their fall decorations or this or that. And except we're all walking around in shorts and t-shirts yet.
Exactly. And people have got their Halloween costumes. They're getting them out for the kids. And I'm like, it doesn't feel, oh yeah, I guess it is October. I have to keep reminding myself that.
Yeah. It is weird. So yesterday the girls and I were in Walmart running errands, and so they have all the Halloween stuff out and just fall in general that kind of all leans to each other. But then they also have Christmas stuff out, and like when I say like they have a lot of Christmas stuff, and so the girls were like, yeah, it was so weird to me to see that. And so we're all in like shorts and t-shirts, and in my cart I have like groceries and whatnot. We have some fall things that the girls saw, and then we also had Christmas stuff because my son Henry loves the Grinch, and so the girls had seen this pillow thing that they're like, oh, Henry would love this. And so I was like this, and then we're walking out in shorts and t-shirts and back out to the car. I was like, this is the most bizarre witness to anybody could probably see right now. Like, what a diverse cart.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I think the one thing you said about your husband saying about how dry it is and how it almost is preferred for harvest, I would agree with that, because then we just go and get a lot done in the last, week or two here. The only thing with that is that you're getting a lot done and you have no breaks, and it's just a lot.
So we talked about that too, because he's like, I would much rather just go now and work the late hours now while there's still more daylight, at least, for a few more weeks or whatever. There is more daylight. Yeah. The weather is way better to do anything in right now. But then you also kind of get a little more tired, maybe, like, because like you said, there is no break. Kind of like last week's episode on that, like, fatigue a little bit. That you're like, dang, it just seems a little too early in the season to be so tired of it. But as long as the weather holds out, though, you could probably really get done so much sooner, or you don't feel the pressure to have to get it all out,
and you don't want to beat the snow, up in this neck of the woods. It's a winter comes and sneaks behind. And so if we can get harvest done before the snowfall, I mean, that makes it way better with corn.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, exactly. And so kind of on the note of just being ultra tired and just being in long hours day after day and not getting any rain delays, that also means like the guys in the fields aren't coming home and having these full days with the family, and there's more time away from your family and you're missing out. And so I thought maybe a good topic for today would be.
Yeah. And I got to kind of thinking more about that too. Like, I mean, I know what it's like on like the mom end. And I'm sure, like, we talked a little bit about the sacrifice that, the guys are also in the field. Like my husband has like said that, but I am just curious, like, okay, so like on the mom end, we feel like we are doing everything on the home front because the guys are in the field. And so somebody has to do that to balance, shuffle kids to where they need to go, manage the calendar and whatever. That we have that fatigue. And so we just feel like we're in our own corner of the world and it's just survival mode. Nobody's really truly thriving during some of that. And so I guess like I just know what that's like. And so I'm curious your perspective though on the other end of it, because I always tell Scott, I'm like, all you have to worry about is just sitting in sitting in the truck or, doing this or that. Like, you don't have to balance, like, conferences are coming up. I got that email to sign up for conferences. I'm like, you don't even have to worry about how you're going to get to conferences and drive from one to the next. And you're just sitting in a field or sitting in the truck, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, yeah, I don't have to worry about that, but I do have to worry about, this or that. So, like, I think that this is probably a good conversation of what the moms feel like and what the dads are feeling like.
Absolutely. And I think this could even be a relatable episode for anybody even outside of agriculture, because it's the cliche. I was saying, laughing about this right before we started recording, that it's very cliche that the dad comes home and the kids are like, yay, daddy, and are like this huge big entrance excitement, right? And then the mom's like, well,
Yes.
what am I, chopped liver? And that happens out in and outside of agriculture, right? So, whether the mom is home with the kids or whether she even works, but she's just ultimately probably picking them up from daycare. It's more common anyway for the mom to be doing that, and she's with the kids more than maybe the dad is. And let's say he comes home from work and she was with him all day, and she's been getting the worst of the kids, right? The worst side of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it's a totally different light switch for the dad. And why is that? We could talk about the why behind it, but it's not fair sometimes, it seems like, to the mom.
Yeah, and that's hard because I remember when working, like, teaching, you do kind of get, like, the worst. Everybody gets their worst sides of each other at the end of the day. Like, the kids are exhausted from school, and I have poured myself into my students. And so then when my own kids come, then I just remember thinking, like, well, this is not entirely fair at all, that my kids are also seeing my worst side. And
sure,
but it's also nobody's fault, though. It's nobody's fault, though, either. It's just the end of the day kind of a thing that everybody's just done. That was a big reason. I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a tangent topic, but that was one of the reasons why I had decided to stay home, was that I was really getting to a point that I was like, gosh, I kind of feel like I'm pouring myself into everybody else's kids, but my kids get kind of that short end. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved teaching, but there's that saying that, like, you're always replaceable and everywhere else except for your home. And when I remember seeing that somewhere and talking to a friend, and that was huge. And I was like, wow, that's so true. Like, everything else in life essentially is replaceable except for your family. So that was a big one too. But it is true that, like, moms are getting ready for bedtime and then dad's ready to start a wrestling match, and you're like, oh my gosh. And
they were just calmed
some
down
of it
until
is
dad gets home, and then
yes, 100%. But there is I think it was eye-opening for me because one parent is always the default parent, and it usually falls on mom. She's the one that's keeping track of the calendar and knowing the kids' doctor. If you ever had to just the very cliche, like, if dad had to bring the kids to the doctor, could they remember where it's at?
I don't even know what time, when,
birthday.
Where.
Yeah, any of that kind of stuff. So, like, it's the mental load sometimes that mom has to, but I also am guilty that I'm like, if it's not on my calendar, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to forget about it. So, but balancing that. And so then it's,
okay, so you have the mental load, but here's a question to you. Do you think you also have this higher emotional load too? Because I just feel a lot, women in general tend to be way more emotional, but someone has to be, right? Like, we were made by God for a reason to complement each other. Guys tend to be a little bit more stoic or have a little bit more apathy to some degree, right, in this situation. So being a little more emotional is needed when raising kids. You have to have both sides of things. And so you have the emotional load of not only dealing with the worst and seeing that, but you also have to care more too, or someone needs to. It seems like there's that more empathy and more compassion, but then maybe having to dish out the discipline more often too, and dad sometimes doesn't have to deal with that.
I think I guess I never really thought of that. And there is a lot of personality is a huge part of it, but I think moms are so emotional and nurturing, and so we got to make sure everybody is dads are like, is everybody fed? And everybody's, all of those like basic needs and that kind of like provider in that way. And then mom supplements on an emotional front. But then sometimes then during harvest when mom has to do both sides of it, just because it's just how it rolls for a few months. And then that can be emotionally exhausting because you're making sure that everybody's doing okay and friendships are doing well at school and just all that, and balancing all that and continuing to make sure that everybody's homework is done and did you do it to the best of your ability. And some of that is kind of hard too because you're just like, just get it done because we have to go on to the next thing. But is this the best work that you could do? Or I just also, fire prevention is coming up and I got that email of they have to create their little posters or something. And so, balancing those types of things. And yeah, I guess I never really thought of it as like an emotional side either. Whereas not to say that dads aren't emotional either, because I've seen a grown man cry. So not to
Of
say that it
course.
can't happen.
I
But
just
I
feel
think
like
a lot of
it takes that role a little bit more. So like the good and the
yes,
bad. Sometimes it seems
yes,
like they have to dish out the emotion that is on the negative side. Like, the guys might be a little more apathetic towards the situation, but ultimately deep down they know that some sort of discipline needs to happen, and it might end up falling more on the mom. Or especially when the dad's not around.
yeah,
And you have, and whether that's during harvest or outside of agriculture, and then they also are the one that the kids are curling up on your lap and
yes.
and getting nurtured and getting that special care. Not saying that doesn't happen with dad. It's just, again, let's think about where the role happens more often.
It's kind of like when your kids are sick. I don't know about in your household, but whenever our kids are sick or they need something, their first person, they will walk right on past my husband and come straight to me if they're not feeling well. And I'm like, do you realize that your dad is also available to help
Yeah,
you in
right.
this situation? But, when they come down in the middle of the night, when they were little and their tummies hurt, they walked all the way around the side of the bed to come to me to let me know that their tummy hurt. And when they're sick and they want to just stay home, they want to stay home with mom. And there is a lot of that. I think that's just so natural for human beings to still want their moms because we are, as females, created in that way more of a nurturing. That's just how we were created. So
Yeah.
I think a
Yeah,
lot of it
creative
is just
purpose.
truly by nature and truly intentionally that way.
Yeah, created with a purpose. Now, do you think, another question off the cuff here, do you think that, especially during this time of year, you are just so drained, your cup is being let out to basically take care of all these needs and these other people too in your life, including your husband, as you're helping take care of him somewhat, as he's lessened some of his parental roles to some degree. Do you feel like you find that your cup is not being filled for yourself even? You get what I'm asking?
Sometimes I do. I definitely did more when I was working versus now that I stay home. I have a better understanding and a better perspective maybe of what is actually going on around the farm. Like, for example, yesterday they didn't even get to the field until it was probably 6:15, 6:30 before they finally got to the field because we have livestock. So we had however many loads of cattle that came in and then went out and whatever was happening. And so then I had, prior to that, I would have been like, what have you done all day long that now you're going to the field? Like, those
Oh
kinds of
yeah.
things. I think it was harder to balance. Like, I had, school, I had all of their activities. I still, the kids want to ride in the field, so going out there, but then shuffling them to something else. If I was in charge of meals for supper, all that kind of stuff, it was probably worse when I was teaching than maybe now that I'm staying home. Because I just have way more flexibility now, and I can see how the days are actually playing out in
You've
real
gained some
time.
understanding, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think that sometimes it is hard as the season goes on. It does become hard because then it's just like over and over and over. At the beginning, it's not so bad. Everybody's energized at the beginning of harvest and everybody,
Yeah, it's
there's
something
the
new.
excitement. Yeah, but then as it goes on, I'm sure like for you too, Aaron, that like you're like, this is just getting old. Like I'm just really ready to be
Yeah,
done. I'm
yeah.
like if I see any more corn, I'm just dreaming about corn these days that it
Counting,
just
yeah, counting ears in my
counting
sleep.
rows. I'm sure you're just like, was that 15 or 16? I don't know where I'm at anymore.
Yeah. I
I
have
think,
noticed that it's harder for me to sleep. I've been using like AirPods in my ears and trying to listen to like sleep hypnosis stuff at night. I've
oh,
never been and I don't know if everybody deals with that or not. Or I'm just a light sleeper and struggled over the years anyway. But this time of year, because again, I'm not just a grain farmer either. We have the livestock, and I I'm pretty fit. I stay very active during the day. This is when I stay the least active, even though it's really long hours because I'm just sitting on my duff most of the time, and
yeah,
I don't think I burn enough calories, and then I have enough things that I'm thinking about. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier when you said your husband Scott was saying, "Well, I'm still like thinking about other things. I'm still worried about other things." Well, maybe we're sitting in the cab here not with the kids, but we're worried about them. We're not
yeah.
with our wife, but we're worried about her. You know,
Oh,
we're worried
sure.
about the things that we aren't present with, and we can't do anything about it in a sense. Like literally, physically, yeah, we could, but you get my point. In the
Yeah,
moment,
yeah,
it's like I wish I was there. I'm still worrying about it. I'm worried they're going to sleep without me in the house. I'm worried about their safety. Are you really, like, maybe not to the high level, but there
sure.
it's in your mind. It's kind of like the question about like everyone was surprised. Gals were surprised when they learned that their boyfriends or husbands were thinking about the Roman Empire once a week. You know, did you ever hear about
Yeah.
that whole thing? I mean, it's like,
Yes, yes.
what? What? Guys don't actually think about crazy stuff like this? Yeah, actually we do. Like, sometimes it looks like we're thinking about nothing, and sometimes we are. But we're also thinking about a lot of other things, and our mind is racing. And then time to go to bed, and I haven't burned enough calories, and my mind's still thinking about things. And it's like, oh well, I need to like listen to some cool tunes and drift off.
Yeah, I'm like, I think that, when I would make the comment of, you don't have anything to worry about, and all you do is sit there, and you and your wife would probably somewhat agree to that, and you would definitely side with my husband on this. Of he's like, yeah, but you know how much of a bummer it is to only ever hear about what happens at home. Like I don't actually get to witness it. I don't get to experience it, because I'm always like, yeah, you weren't around for the last hour when I fought them on a bedtime. And lucky
Yeah.
you, now they're down. And he would be like, yeah, like, but I want to be here. And I was like, do you though? Do you really want to? And he was like, yeah, because it kind of sucks just sitting in the cab of a tractor, just thinking about your family when you're like, I could really be hanging out with them. And I was like, oh, I guess I never really thought of that, and that shifted my perspective a lot
Yeah,
of of
it's like the
too
guy
much
that's
time
on
to
like a
think.
long. Yeah, exactly. Too much time to think alone and all alone, typically, by yourself for hours on end. It's like the guy that's like on a long work trip that gets sent out to the East Coast. He doesn't want to, but he has to because of his job. So he's far away, and he gets a phone call about how his baby at home is having their first steps, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's not that much of a distance, but I mean, it's still a corollary because the guy's in the field because he kind of has to be, but he wants to be at home. There is that desire, and he's definitely thinking about as he's traveling or traveling through the field in this case.
How do you and your wife, I guess, I mean, she can bring the kids out to you, and that's how you can spend time. But as far as like you and your wife, like making sure that you're reconnecting and that your marriage is still solid, because I mean, it could really weigh on a marriage. We
Yeah,
not spending time together, because it's easy for me to bring the kids out to the field and drop them for an hour or whatever it is so they can ride and see dad. But like
that
what
gives
do
you a
you
break. But what do you do about, yeah, you and Scott, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and you asked me first, so I will, I'll honor that, I guess, and answer it. But then it's your
yeah,
turn, okay? Now,
okay, okay.
yeah, so it's been a it's been a real thing in the past where it has affected our marriage, and we've just had to, and maybe there's, I don't know, not complacency, but just getting used to it somewhat. You know, I know my
Mm-hmm.
wife has gotten used to the trend of how harvest works after a few years versus like the first year of marriage where it was much more of a shock for her. But yeah, it's something that is always got to be worked on, and it probably lands more on my end to to do better than what I have, to be completely honest. A lot of it has to do with schedule differences too. So like if she's not a night owl, and she's not, she's going to be tired from a long day, as she should be, from working, also working with the kids, doing all the things, doing more things, as we've been talking about, than normal. So the schedule's already stretched. The mental load and even the heart load, the emotional load is already stretched. And so if it's sitting down to finally relax after the kids are in bed to watch a show or something without your husband, because he's still in the field and it's after dark now at this point, yeah, it makes sense that she's going to fall asleep, and then I'm coming home late, and we're not really getting enough time to connect. I mean, we're doing probably more phone calls than what we normally do on a normal off season basis, because it's not as needed. So we're making sure to have time over that, but in person it ends up being a little bit lacking. It could always be better, and we have to make sure that when you do have time together, you're optimizing it. So I think it's important to have like check-ins, like we need to talk about the day, talk about even what the upcoming week. I think that's really important. And something that we've done, maybe just not 100% consistently. I'm literally talking off the cuff here, and it's sort of like making mental notes at the same time here. If we need to make sure that throughout this harvest season that and for anybody, even outside of ag, it's a good practice that say it's Sunday might be your best day, and it's the start of the week before the work week begins and kids go off to school. Your Sunday afternoon or evening, you're getting together, you're sitting down, and you're talking about your week ahead. And that involves like meal planning. It also involves just scheduling. You can look back on the past week and do things like, hey, like how do we think this past week went, and what were the highs and lows? And that's not just with the kids, that's within our marriage too.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. We should get better about that too. I mean, we have a shared calendar like on our phones, so that, I mean, I have it for my own sanity, but then we also created it so that it can be shared between the two of us. That I really wanted him to use it more than he does, but he's just really good at just remembering things, because I always wanted him to just put on there when they had like fat cattle going out, that I at least knew or had a heads up. But he's like, I don't always, like sometimes I sell them. Yeah, he's like, I remember it, or whatever it is, or had the somebody lined up to haul them. Like right now, this time of year, he doesn't always have the ability to haul them, but he's like, or they get sold, but they don't go out right away either. So they, kind of playing that balance of it. But he's gotten really good at actually looking at the calendar and starting to acknowledge, like, okay, so tonight one of the kids has a soccer game or something. And, the other night I had one at cross country and one at soccer. So I had to balance. He's like, so who's bringing who, where? So I appreciate that he at least acknowledges that life is still happening around the home front, and that, yeah, I have it taken care of. Like he knows that I'm going to have it taken care of, because moms they just do and have it figured out. But
yeah, you do.
And also I appreciate the just even the acknowledgement of that he sees that there are things happening, that I have it under control. I don't expect him, I never thought that I was going to have to be like, hey, can you find somebody to do that in the midst of everything else that you're doing too? So I do like that acknowledgement piece. I think that helps, but maybe also we should probably reflect back a little bit of like what could we do better at, so to make this next week run a little smoother, what wasn't working or what's going on. We have my in-laws live actually right across the road from us. So I have the advantage for a long time that they were right across the road when my kids would need somebody to watch them. I could just leave them there, and I would be intentional, and I would just go out to the field, because I can't pull him out of the field and expect that we're going to go on a date night or something. So if I was going to spend any actual like physical contact time with him outside of 2 ships passing in the night, then I had to learn that I had to just go to him and ride a couple rounds, in the semi to whatever grain bin or the co-op, and do that for a little bit to actually talk in person and then be on our way. So, and my mother-in-law has always been really good about that, because I think she knew from raising her kids when they were little how important that is, to make sure that, the marriage is good, because if the marriage isn't good, the family's not good. That's kind of like your wife, in a sense that I just had to succumb to it. It was probably me more than anything, that I was probably just bucking the I was like, I need to cave because the farm is not going to cave, is probably that mentality.
The farm's not going to move. The farm is physically there. It's the land. It's going to stay. The cattle lot is still there. It's not going to change. Yeah. Does that mean that you have to be not compassionate or not empathetic about the change that's going on with the other person? No, I think the biggest thing, I liked what you said about the acknowledgement there. I think the biggest thing and this is me speaking out to the guys out there, whether you're a farmer or very distant from agriculture or not, as a listener, if you're a dad, if you're a husband, I think one of the biggest things you can do is just acknowledging and giving your wife, your spouse, your beloved a voice, like, and feeling heard. And what happens a lot during this type season here, where we do have a physical distance and less time together, I think the biggest thing we can do, and I'm speaking to myself right now, like I need to do better myself. This is not me preaching, is just acknowledging those things that she did extra. And you already mentioned that, but like, even if I don't know, I need to ask. So that's part of that check-in. Like, you don't know until you ask about the day and even the past week. Like, what do you think went really well? If it can't work as a daily check-in, make sure it's weekly at least. And again, I'm speaking to myself too.
I think it's good on both ends too. Like, I think having the farmer, the husband, check in with the wife to just know that, like, I see what you're doing, and it's very appreciative, because somebody has to still keep the household running for sure. But now, like, me speaking to myself, like, I also have to check in with him that, like, I know that you have a lot on your plate. There's a lot to worry about. We hear that too many times of how stressful farming is. And I think sometimes we take that for granted a little bit, of all the decision making that has to happen and the physicality. But I think it's really good, though, for wives to remember to check in on their farmers, that, like, what can I do to help you? Do you want me to bring you a snack to the field? Do you need me to just call you? What can I actually do to help you? Because I'm the farm wife that doesn't run a grain cart or do any of those kinds of things. But I mean, I can surely bring you a snack if you needed me to bring you a snack, or whatever his needs are.
Yeah, you're supporting him in so many other ways, and that goes for just wives even outside the farm world too. I mean, what's the phrase when they were talking about, or it was Robin Williams, I think, check on your funny friends, right? So, like, when you think everything's going good with all the people around you, keep a check-in. Like, you were just mentioning the stress and all the stuff that's going on in the head of a farmer, but this is just your guy. This is just your husband. It doesn't have to be a farmer, but check in on each other. That goes for every spouse, every friend too. Check in on the people in your life that you think everything might be going on fine up there, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because you just never know what's all. Yeah, this episode should just be like, check in on your people.
Right.
To just make sure they're all good. And, like, I think sometimes we take for granted that the kids are very resilient, kids are very adaptable, and when they grow up on the farm, typically the farm kids love it. But I think you still have to, like, check in on your kids that, like, I haven't forgotten about you. It's just busy this time of year, and this will pass. But they make a lot of sacrifices too.
Yeah. That's a good point too. I the whole time I've been thinking about spouses, but I wasn't necessarily thinking about the check-in with the kid. I mean, and whether they're 8 years old or whether they're 18, both sides.
Yeah, I think that's important. I'm jumping in the car
already, and you're jumping in the car, and maybe it's a good time to end this if that works for you too.
Yeah, that works. That works for me. Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. I hope you found something from this and can find some relatability in your own life, and make sure to check out on your people.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Soil and Soul, and we hope that it blesses you. Please stay tuned during the week for the other daily shows that we offer as part of this special ministry project we're providing during the peak seasons of planting and harvest. Also, if you'd like to find out more about Catholic Passage, how you might collaborate with us, or even support our mission, please visit us at CatholicPassage.com. Most importantly, you can support us with your prayers. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us.